It's a little crazy with the kid and the dog.
I can't get my video to work today.
That makes me look adventurous.
Oh, sorry.
Oh. I know. Oh no.
Welcome to Vegas.
That
was so bad.
That was the worst ever. That was so bad.
Hey everyone. We're going to get started here in just a few minutes. We just want to make sure that we're getting everybody that we can into our session here. So we'll just wait like just a minute or two here. And while we wait on everyone else to join, please get familiar with our housekeeping slides. This is just a great place to really connect with other people in the industry. So use the chat feature to talk with other fellow attendees, and you can also communicate any technical issues. We have two community moderators for this session. So we have Alex Seymour and I believe Kelly, and also Jamie. I think we might have three. And so feel free to ask them any questions as we go. And also we have with our panelists, if you have any questions for them, please put those in the questions tab. It's right next to where it says chat. Right next to that is questions. The good thing about that is that people can upvote certain questions. And then at the end, we can see the most popular questions and then ask those if we don't have a chance or time to answer all of them. And lastly, if speakers have any polls for you to vote on during the session, they're going to put those in the polls tab. So you can check that out as well. And before we get started, let's review the code of conduct. This is just to make sure that everyone feels like we're in a safe and inclusive space. So be sure to, just keep any offensive comments to a minimum and be nice and play nice. And to read the full statement, we have a link that our community moderators will post in the chat. And we'll just wait just another minute here. All right. Great. Let's get started, guys. So first, I just want to thank everybody for coming to this session. It's been just a day and a half already, and we still have the whole rest of the week of exciting bankruptcy sessions and experts in bankruptcy and beyond. And this session is really fun because we're talking about women in legal tech. And this isn't just about bankruptcy, but we're talking about what's happening in the space right now. And so we're going to be joined by three panelists, Ivy Gray, Jess Birken, and Kat Moon. And my name's Janine Sickmeyer, and I'll be moderating the panel. So today, all four of us are going to have a discussion on bankruptcy law, legal technology, and just being a woman in the legal industry as a whole. So first, we always start all of our sessions with some of the stats about what's happening in the economy and why we're doing this conference. So since the pandemic started, there have been 3 million people not paying their mortgage. 1 in 4 small businesses have shut down. And over 22 million people have filed for unemployment. So the economy is not going to look the same when we get through this. And that's why we started Bankruptcy Week. As a legal software company in the bankruptcy space, we see firsthand the data represented by the ebbs and flows of the economy. And during the last recession, bankruptcy filings went up 74%. Commentators are predicting a tsunami of filing cases coming after the pandemic is over. Attorneys need to be prepared. And that's what this week is all about. It's helping you learn bankruptcy, help to better your practice through marketing, software, social media, client payments, workflows, technology, and more. So before I get into the panel, I'd like to tell you guys a little bit about me, my story, and also what's happening right now in the tech space. So I'm the managing director and founder of Next Chapter. And as a business leader and entrepreneur, I provide strategic direction, vision about Next Chapter. And I'm particularly fascinated in the intersection between law and technology, and more specifically about forms automation. So when I was starting Next Chapter, I was one of the only women in legal tech at the time, and I really noticed that there were some other problems happening here. So let me pull up my slide. Okay. So there's a problem in the tech industry, and really it's up to all of us to solve it. Women hold only 25% of the jobs. Sorry about that. Just getting my slides together here. Okay. So women hold only 25% of all jobs in tech, which is a shocking statistic considering that women make up nearly half of the total workforce. So it gets worse. If we look at who's making up leadership positions at tech companies, the number of women in senior leadership and executive roles is embarrassingly low. It's 5%. So this is a major issue. Solving this problem is critical for not just women, but also the tech industry and specifically legal tech. So let's look at the stats. Hiring women is just better for business. Companies with a female founder performed 63% better than all male teams, according to First Round Capital. But somehow women are still underestimated. So as a woman who worked in the legal tech space my entire adult life, I've seen these issues firsthand. Women experience more sexism, harassment, and a higher bar to success. And I was a paralegal for several years before going out on my own and founding 2 companies. The first, a virtual paralegal company called Paralegal Team. And the second is Next Chapter, the industry's first online bankruptcy application. So when I was starting Next Chapter, I was a solo female founder. And as you can imagine, it wasn't easy. I was met with adversity of being a woman in tech and trying to raise money for my startup, and the odds were against me from the start. A recent TechCrunch survey said that female founders are only receiving 2.8% of all capital invested in startups. And that's even lower now since COVID-19. And I can tell you that my experience raising is the perfect example of this. I pitched 82 times. Well, this is actually a really positive networking picture, but I pitched 82 times from Google Ventures to Bain Capital, and I heard no pretty much every time. When I finally did get interest from investors, they had horrible deal expectations. The valuations were ridiculously low. And I was always asked when I would get married, how many kids I wanted, and I quickly learned to hide my engagement ring and answer with, this company is my baby. Major eye roll. So although I was knocked down so many times, I kept moving. I forged a path for myself and other women in technology. And I learned how to code, bootstrap my company to revenue, employed a tech team made up of 75% women, and proudly celebrated our acquisition with this team just a few months ago. So I think every one of us has a responsibility to make the industry more open to women in lawyers, female lawyers in the tech space, mothers in the workplace. And I think that, it would be really, if we look back at those statistics that I mentioned earlier, it's going to take a long time to change it. But, I think with more pushback and passion, we can all work together to try to create a world that we want our children to live in. So I think by having this panel of amazing women here today, we're inviting inclusiveness and sparking this conversation. So I wanted to lead off with this. This was actually what I was going to present at the Women Summit ABA Tech Show had a couple months ago. And ironically, I was not able to go because my children were sick. And not just one of them, but all 4 of them got sick at the same time. So I stayed home from that. And was not able to present on stage. And so it's just another one of those things, being the the female in tech here, you're just, you sometimes you have to stay home. So it was unfortunate, and I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to be able to play this these slides. It was much longer, but I think that we really have a chance to talk about why this is happening and what we can do to try to help it. And then also, I just want to talk with all of our panelists about what's happening right now too, to their law firms, and what they're seeing in their businesses because of coronavirus. So now it's time for me to welcome to our stage our panelists. We have Ivy Gray, Jess Birken, and Kat Moon. You guys can come onto the stage while I remove that. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. And hi. All right, we've got everybody here. Okay, great. I'm going to give you guys, I am going to present, say your bios so that everybody knows who you all are. And I'd love for you guys to introduce yourselves too. So actually just introduce yourselves. Let's do it that way. I think that's a little more personable, and you guys can let us know. Jess, would you like to start?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Well, thanks for having me. I'm Jess Birken. I'm a solo practice attorney in Minneapolis, Minnesota. My practice is focused solely on helping nonprofits, so very different from bankruptcy. So I'm bringing a slightly different perspective here, and I'm excited to be here, and let's pass it to Ivy.
Great.
Hi, my name is Ivy Gray. I practiced corporate bankruptcy law for 10 years before joining the legal tech world full-time. I was recently named one of the most influential women in legal tech by ILTA, and I'm a Fast Case 50 honoree and one of the Women of Legal Tech by the ABA. I've worked on huge cases, everything from Detroit and Nortel to Dewey and LaBeouf and Columbia House. So for a while, I could say that I'd worked on every major bankruptcy case that you read about in the Wall Street Journal for about 10 years.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Kat?
Hello. Thank you so much for including me. I am Kat Moon, and I teach at Vanderbilt Law School. I'm Director of Innovation Design, and I work in the program on law and innovation. I also direct our executive education platform, which you can find at innovatethelaw.com. And before I started teaching, I practiced law for about 20 years. Unlike Ivy, I have zero bankruptcy experience, but I did much more like Jess. I ran a small firm, and then was a solo practitioner, had a business transactional practice for close to 20 years. So I'm just thrilled to be here with you guys and have this conversation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. All right. So guys, we're all at home. Well, I'm basically at home. I'm at my second home. So, but we're all here because of shelter in place orders. And I know this adjustment is not easy. So I wanted to start by just trying to ask how you guys are handling this right now, and see, what kind of transition have you had to make to work from home, and what's it like? Do you, have anyone there that's distracting you? We'll start again with Jess here.
Very key to unmute your mic. Work from home skills. I have to say that it has been a big adjustment as far as just what I do, at work a lot of times is having in-person meetings. I'm going to lunches, I'm going to happy hours, I'm teaching CLE. And so the biggest difference for me has just been actually staying still in one place. Mm-hmm. My firm's really set up to be very virtual friendly already. I worked my first 3 years with my firm out of a co-working space. I didn't even have my own office until the last year, and my team is all remote. So I'm very well adapted to this life. But what I'm have not been adapted to is having my kids home with me all day. Although I've been very grateful that they are over age 11, because they're much more self-sufficient than some people with littles right now. I feel for you. But yeah, really like the adjustment has been like, wow, okay, I really need to fall back on my content marketing because my in-person face-to-face networking has been basically choked down to almost nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. And what are you seeing, Kat? How are you adjusting? What's this like for you? What were you doing before the pandemic?
So I now live underneath the stairs in my home. I have a makeshift office set up. So, work from home has not been a huge transition for me. I spend a lot of time working from home anyway. The biggest part, the biggest challenge I think recently was moving all our coursework online at Vanderbilt. And so I had to finish my course that way. So not ideal, but it happened. I too have children wandering around. Mine are a freshman and a senior in high school. So like Jess is self-sufficient, and yet still challenging at times. And so, yeah, I think what I miss the most is just the ability to have in-person one-on-one time with colleagues and students. And so that I will be really, really glad when we're all back in the building. Until then, I'm staying at home.
Yeah, I completely relate. I miss anyone else to kind of network with in person in our office. We're always communicating over our video right now. So yeah. So how about you, Ivy? What's it like? Are you? I know. Tell us again about where you work and how how working with your team has changed or has not.
It has not really changed. I have been working from home 100% for the past 5 years. It was part of the tail end of my bankruptcy practice. And I also have worked from home with both of my legal tech companies. So I'm the vice president of strategy for WordRake, which is a legal technology company. Most of the other team members go into an office in Seattle, but I've always been the lone person in Chicago. So not much has changed, except that I've moved my entire operation into my kitchen because my neighbor plays video games loudly right over my office. So that's changed a bit. And I also don't have my weekly dance outlet where I used to, be a workaholic all week long. And then I would go out swing dancing and everything would be fine. So now I definitely get crabby and I need to manage myself better so that my team still feels welcome and supported.
Yeah, I love that you swing dance. I did a little ballroom dancing with my husband before all the kids, and it was so much fun. It's, yeah, like you said, just like an outlet. It's another way to just spend your energy in something super positive. So that's really cool. Okay, guys. So COVID-19 is pushing attorneys to adopt more technology. We're seeing it at Next Chapter. We have attorneys who have never, we're still talking. I can't believe that we're still talking about going online and going paperless and using technology for workflows and all that, but we are. And so people are coming to us saying, I've never used online bankruptcy software. And this is kind of a big place for us right now. How do you guys feel like that? Like, do you think that this is kind of pushing attorneys and law firms to use more modern technology and workflows? Ivy, how about you? Since you're in a tech company right now, how do you feel about, are you seeing that as well?
I'm definitely seeing people more open to the overall idea of working from home and setting it up properly and doing more workflow analysis. I'm actually surprised at how much people want to do it right rather than just slap on a Band-Aid. So that's a pleasant surprise. And I hope that more people will figure out what parts of their process were just pure drag. And I think we are going that direction. Sorry, I was checking out the chat. So I hope that was directly on point.
Yes, no, that's fine.
Okay.
The chat is like, it really is super exciting, but then it's also so distracting because as a speaker and we've been doing this through the week, and we notice like you want to engage and talk to the attendees, and then you're like, wait, did I fall off track of something else? So I totally get it. It's fun too, and we'll get to all the questions that people have, I'm sure, and hopefully all the audio issues are good. But yeah, so how are you guys? Like how do you think that right now? I mean, we know that cloud-based software is efficient and helping attorneys, and we know it's here to stay even after all the dust settles from the pandemic. So, how does technology improve the practice of law, in your opinion? How are you seeing attorneys adapting and using technology to kind of help their practice?
So hopefully my sound is a little bit better. I upped it. Awesome.
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
So, to your point earlier, Janine, it is 2020. And I really honestly can't believe we're still having this conversation.
Yeah.
I formed a law firm that was largely cloud-based in 2006. And so I spent the majority of my practice practicing in the cloud. I could operate really from practically anywhere in the world definitely since 2009. And so, I vacillate between just elation that there seems to be an uptake, that to Ivy's point, that genuinely people seem interested in figuring out how to use these tools well, and not just kind of by the seat of their pants just to drop them when this is over, at least fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And also just, my head wants to explode. Because again, we're having these conversations now, still. And, I'm an optimistic person, so I tend to stay on the elation end of the spectrum. And what I hope most out of this entire experience is that folks emerge with more open minds to continue trying new tools to support their practice, and having hopefully been affirmed by at least part of the experiences they've had in leveraging technology during all of this. And so in many ways, I think it's less about exactly what you're using right now and more about being more open-minded to trying things and really embracing all that technology can offer. I mean, it just offers a wealth of benefits to practicing lawyers, and I think Jess can probably speak directly to that, because she really is a phenomenal example of an attorney who leverages technology, I think, to its highest and best use.
Yes, Jess, tell us more.
Thanks, Kat. I was listening to what Kat is saying, and it's just funny, like, because it is about like trying things and also kind of listening to the internal scripts that we have in our head. So I'm watching the chat go by, and there are folks who are like, well, I can't do e-filing in my state. And like, that's like a last mile problem, but we can really control all of our process right up till that last mile. I work with nonprofits. The IRS doesn't have e-filing. I have a fax number because I have to talk to the IRS, right? But it's like trying things and getting comfortable with the feeling of incompetence. Like, I will share that when we logged in, this is only the second time I did my little trial run to get ready for the show here. And then the second time ever that I'm logging into this platform is to go live. And all of a sudden, I can't remember where my controls are. I don't know how my mic works. And then like, I can't hear anything. We have 5 minutes until we go live. And I'm going, oh my God, I'm going to look super unprofessional. Holy crap. It's like, it'll be fine. Like, just keep breathing, try another microphone. But those are like the kind of feelings that make lawyers especially really uncomfortable. We don't like that feeling, right? We want to get we want to be in control. We want to manage our risk. And so it's really about putting yourself out there in those little small ways to get a little bit more comfortable with like, okay, I'm going to feel really stupid for 5 minutes to 3 hours, depending on what you're trying, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that because we have, as a software company, we're teaching people how to use technology. A lot of times they haven't ever used something like Next Chapter. So our support team is working hard with them. But then every time I'm like, okay, team, we have this new technology that we're going to use in house, and everybody's like, I mean, not everybody, but a lot of them are groaning and saying like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, guys, this is the chance that we have to be the user. We need to take note of this and say, what doesn't make me feel comfortable as I'm using this new thing that, and how can I try to talk myself through it to make myself feel better? Because this is how attorneys are feeling when they use Next Chapter or any other technology.
One of the things that I've been really paying attention to is the different types of user personalities. I'm one of those people who doesn't read the instructions for anything. I just jump right in and poke around and hope that it works. And there are a lot of people like me out there. So I try to keep that in mind as I design new features and tests. And I just think that there's so much that we can learn by being a fly on the wall and looking at how people are discussing their experiences on social media. So instead of just calling them stupid, look at it as a really good ethnographic study of how people use tech in the wild.
Yeah, that's great. We've been trying to do that too, like looking at the different types of user personalities, I think is so important. And so have you guys, this is kind of off topic, but I'm thinking about legal tech, and I was wondering if any of you guys have gone to the Lawyerist Lab, the technology event that I thought so. Was that pretty interesting? Were you guys building things there? What was that like, Jess?
So I did the the TBD thing.
Oh yeah.
I think Ed Walters and I were in the same
Okay,
group.
cool.
And
yeah.
Then I've been to their lab conference as well since I was a TBD alum. And those kind of events are really about building your practice and thinking about what the future of your practice can look like. Versus like necessarily, I think they do have a hackathon every year where it's like, let's think of like a thing that we could make for the community and just do that for one night. But it's also really focused on lawyers developing their own practices. And some of that is how you might leverage technology to do that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I just thought about that. I was like, I know that there's modern events that are happening that do, teach you not just through things like this, like the sessions that we're hosting, but very immersive kind of events where you can learn and get your hands in it. And so that's really interesting. Okay, so guys, I want to kind of break down a couple. I want to ask you guys like independent questions. Kat, I'm going to start with you first. I know you're doing so many great things right now to improve access to justice and improve the lives of lawyers and law firms with technology. Can you tell me more about Make Law Better?
Yes. So thank you for asking me to talk about Make Law Better. And Make Law Better, in essence, is really just an effort for me to create some community and movement around what I think everyone I know in legal innovation, and I use the phrase legal innovation, I think, to include legal tech, but hopefully be a little broader and more inclusive. Because I think there are some folks who don't consider themselves technologists, but definitely consider themselves legal innovators, right? So it really is twofold. And one is just to invite anyone who self-identifies as an innovator in the law to come forward and be seen and be known and, join the broader community. I think there are a lot of us on Twitter who are really good at putting ourselves out there. And I think there are a whole lot more of us who we just don't know yet. So part of it is just to invite people to come out and connect, because I do believe that there's incredible value in learning what other folks are doing, what they're working on, how they're doing things. We multiply our knowledge and our impact when we come together that way. The second purpose is for others to know us. I observe that there are leaders right now who are having to make very hard decisions about how to move things forward in the face of the pandemic and beyond. And not all of them are blessed with necessarily an innovation mindset or training themselves, or frankly, a team around them. The legal profession generally, universally, is not known as the profession of innovators, right? And so it really is a challenge or a dare to folks who could benefit from the tools, methods, mindsets of innovators to seek help. We now have, Jordan Furlong named us an army of innovators, and so we now have this army of innovators, a group of people who want to help and have come forward to help. And so we've got about 250 people. Actually, I haven't checked the list really recently, and so it might be more. Folks who just have signed on to say, I'm here to help, and what can I do? So that's really all it is.
Yeah.
I know that there are some self-directed projects that are coming out of it. And, hopefully that's going to just, put some good out into the world. But
Yeah.
It's really that simple. Motivated by the pandemic, but hopefully creating some momentum that lasts far beyond, because there's so much opportunity there.
Yeah, I completely agree. I wonder what the next step looks like. I'm like product minded, so I'm like, oh, what's this product roadmap look like for this, this group, and how, because you're getting all these people together virtually and through, their ideas or innovation, efforts, and I just wonder what the next step kind of. Have you thought that out?
Well, so it's very organic. I can't really claim a master plan, first of all. It really seeks to be proactive in the face of a lot of reaction. So I did write a piece. It's the Make Law Better origin story for Bill Henderson's Legal Evolution blog, legalevolution.org. So that there's kind of some more detail in that. If you want to refer to that, look at it. But I can tell you there are two things, and these were spurred by Jim Sandman's speech at the LSC Technology Conference in Portland earlier this year. One is to answer his call that those of us who are doing and building and experimenting in the law to make law better, and that is across the spectrum, absolutely in access to justice, but also in solo and small firms, and also in big law and everywhere in between. It is a call to action for people to share what they're doing, and so that we can essentially create a blueprint for how we can run experiments and learn and actually improve things through a hive mind effort rather than in our little silos. I observe across the spectrum of legal that folks reinvent the wheel constantly. Someone identifies a problem and starts building a solution that someone over here has already built something. It might not be perfect, but it would offer a starting point. And so we need to be much better about sharing what we're doing so that we can learn from each other. So that's the first call to action. And then the second really is to, and it's a corollary, to improve our collaboration skills and efforts, not only across legal, but with people who are from other professions and have other expertise to offer. The best solutions are generated most quickly when you have a diverse team of problem solvers. And we are not good at all at bringing others into our problem solving. And so that's really the second piece, is to build those connections far beyond just those in legal and model how we do this. Because the bottom line is we can't do it alone. And I think we're about to see a need that we've never seen before, and it's only going to show much more starkly how completely inadequate the not quite 1.4 million lawyers in the US are to deal with the problems we're about to face. So we'll see. It's going to be up to the people who want to be involved to make it what it is. I'm just here to provoke. I'm a provocateur.
Well, even from this conference, I'm noticing what everybody wants to do is connect with each other and network. And these, if the chat doesn't tell you enough, I mean, it's everybody's like, I'm from here, I'm from there. Let's meet. Is there a paralegal in this area? Where are you? I'm looking for a mentor. Everybody is looking for those connections. And so it's not just like the legal innovators and legal tech, but the lawyers, paralegals, assistants, everybody who in the legal world altogether, they're all like trying right now, especially to, find other people that they can connect with. And especially when you're at home and you're like, where's my group? So I think,
Yes.
we did like a spin into a Slack group. We were like, well, people want to meet. Let's put them in, a place. And so I think that's really cool of what you're doing with Make Law Better, because it's like a very, it's a place for people to introduce themselves, say what they do, what they're looking for, how they can help, and who, and throw the ask out there, and maybe someone else will come across it. I see this in tech, in investments too, and like VC, people will put these groups together and say, I'm looking for investing in this. And, then the founders can come and be like, oh, that's exactly what I'm looking for. I need mentors. And so this is a really, I think that's great, because there's so many different types of products that can kind of, it's not as organic, I suppose. You're buying into a product to be a part of a network or a group. And I think this is really nice, a great way to establish those connections, just like you said, organically. And so, yeah, congrats on getting that going and building such a great list right now. So yes. Okay, Jess, I want to hand it over to you. Okay, I know that Clio recently released a brief finding that law firms are severely impacted by pandemic, and there are 67% of legal professionals worried about the success of their law practice, and the 57% are worried about making a living over the next few months. So, what can attorneys do to survive this pandemic?
Yeah. And I read that report and I found that to be accurate. Like my matter creation went way the heck down in March for sure. I think that what we can do is really wholeheartedly get on board with some of these virtual tools, having virtual meetings, creating different ways that we can stay in contact with our clients. And, not to like beat a dead horse, but I'm big on the marketing, right? Like you should, if you're still open, you should be posting on Google My Business and like letting people know that you're actually still available and that you have the opportunity to like meet with me virtually. I know a trust and estate lawyer that I'm friends with who said he literally got hired because he offered Zoom meetings and the other lawyer they were considering couldn't do that. So it's really a good way to bolster your practice right now and, be able to offer access to your clients, because people, that report from Clio was like, people still need lawyers. That was the takeaway for me, was that people still need lawyers. It's just like, are we able to meet everybody where they're at? So online scheduling, online meetings, using a better voice over IP phone system. Somebody in the chat was, or in the questions was asking about delivering documents. How do we deliver documents? Are you using e-sign? Those sorts of things to make life easier for your clients will help you not only deliver your service, but also attract more clients to you right now, because you make people feel comfortable.
Yeah. And so how do you think the best way is to show that, you're available? Like you said, put it on Google My Business, or, what other ways are you able to kind of show that through marketing?
So for me, it's really about showing that I am, I put it right on my website. You can schedule a free call with me or with my assistant, whatever, through online scheduling. I mean, it's like immediately obvious once you start introducing with my website this is going to be a sort of accessible experience, whether you call the phone and the person from Smith virtual receptionist schedules it for you. You're going to get the confirmation email that has like do you need to cancel or reschedule? It's not a problem. Just click here to do that, right? It's just sort of like once you start using those tools, you're communicating with people right away that is the type of experience you're going to have with me. So I think just doing it.
Yeah, I've noticed some law firms, if you go to their website, they'll have like a hello bar or some sort of right up at the top, just like, we're open, call us. And it's amazing how many people, you think, that it's not a professional service that would remain open during this. And we've seen it actually decline. Everybody was like, bankruptcies are going to go so high. And I was like, yeah, they will, but not yet. Like people are still it actually went down 47% on last month. And it was like, everyone was so amazed by it. Like we thought bankruptcies were going higher. And it was like, no, nobody knows that, how to connect with attorneys or how to even set up a Zoom call. I think having those technologies is important.
Well, and like having empathy, right? Like my matter creation went down because everybody was in survival mode, including me, right? Like we've all just been in like some weird paralyzed state where, maybe I still need that divorce, or maybe I still need to file that bankruptcy, but like I really just can't make myself do that right now. So what can we do as attorneys to put out stuff that shows that we're empathetic, right? And I know Kat's got my back on this one. With the human-centered design and like having empathy for your customer, so what can you do to sort of show that you're trying to make life easier for them?
So how do you feel like this is going to change the practice of law going forward? Do you think that this is going to play a big impact in the next several years, or do you think that this is going to kind of blow over at some point? I don't, that's hard to say lightly. I mean, because it is pretty severe, but.
I'm interested in what the other panelists think, but I think that there will be some regression, right? This is like potty training with a 3-year-old. There's going to be some forward progress, and then there's going to be some regression. But we had the Supreme Court just did their first hearings over conference call. Like there's no going back from that, right?
I know.
It's not going to be everything in my mind, but I think there will be progression. What do you other ladies think?
Unfortunately, I think the first thing that people are going to do is try to make things billable that aren't really billable. That's what they did during their last recession, and I foresee a bunch of that now. But the ethics rules say that you can't do that. And I think that more clients are armed with that understanding and will start to look at that. And if you do decide to go into the bankruptcy world, the judges are also going to look at your fees, and so are the creditors, because attorney's fees are administrative expenses. So no, do not decide that if you just make that table of authorities by hand, you suddenly get more billable hours. So while I'd like to think that only good things will come out of this, I think that the temptation to pad bills and do all sorts of horrible things will be the first thing that lawyers do. Sorry.
Kat, what would you like to say?
Kat's right now.
So I'll take a different approach. How about that?
That's what we're all here for.
I'm really right. I don't know that I disagree with Ivy, unfortunately, and I'll add this. I'm hopeful that instead of doing that, folks will reassess their personal purpose and mission in doing what they do. Like really think about, why am I doing what I do? And connect that to how can I best serve the people I serve? And hopefully, if they have had an experience through this that has connected them more clearly to improved processes and leveraging technology, what they can is think about, how can I work differently to serve clients in a way that I don't fall into the trap that Ivy described of feeling forced to pad bills because I measure my time in tiny 6-minute increments. So I think the opportunity for redesign and reinvention is tremendous. I also think that there are amazing resources out in the world, including resources that Jess offers, including resources, if you just read Ivy's articles alone and just do what she says, I think that there are tremendous opportunities to really redesign. And if you can embrace and run with that experimental mindset, I think you can create a practice that is much more satisfying in all necessary ways. And I think you'll be more likely to thrive. So that's what I would hope for. And no, it's not easy, but it sure beats going back to a status quo that would tempt someone to pad bills and a whole lot of other bad things. We won't even talk about the negative well-being in our profession, right? We won't even go there.
Great. Okay, thank you guys so much. Ivy, I want to come to you now and talk about your current role is with WordBreak, but prior to this, you were practicing in bankruptcy law and have some pretty impressive clients that you were working for. And so just at the beginning of, we're just at the beginning of this economic crisis, and you were a bankruptcy attorney during the last recession. So can you tell us how that was, and what some of the, what do you think are some of the benefits and the downfalls of being a bankruptcy lawyer?
So I went to law school because I wanted to be a bankruptcy lawyer. I love it. It is the most creative work that I think a lawyer can do. You get to make deals, you get to litigate, you're in court all the time. And you also get to argue some pretty esoteric, weird things that you don't get a chance to do in other worlds. So I love that. There are challenges coming from all sorts of different places, and it pushes you to do more with less. And I think that's part of the reason that you see a lot of bankruptcy lawyers in this innovation space, like Ed and others, is that we are always looking for different ways to achieve the same result with better buy-in, more support, and for a lower cost. So that kind of answers all of them together, but I really love that part of bankruptcy practice, and it's specifically why I became a bankruptcy lawyer. So I think that's one of the good things. One of the bad things, though, is that, normally if you are a litigator and you are subject to all of the whims of the court's litigation process, you only have really one issue to deal with, and you're not going to get staffed on some other big case. But with bankruptcy, there are like 17 cases in one, especially if you have the honor of being in a huge corporate bankruptcy. And you're fending off attacks from so many different places, and juggling the fact-intensive, document-intensive practice and meeting all the deadlines is just, it's really hard. But it does force you to actually be more efficient and learn to do things. The thing that I think that if you are going to start dabbling in bankruptcy practice, obviously you need a CRM, but if you aren't going to go that far, you are really going to learn to be good at Excel, because how are you going to manage all of the claims? How are you going to figure out where all the things are? You will need Excel to do that. And Excel is your friend for mail merge. So if, say, you're representing a committee or lots of different stakeholders who all have their own little piece, then you're going to need to use mail merge to give them their little pieces of information and collect their information in return. So did I get everything?
Yes, okay. I think you sure did. Yeah. So then you left bankruptcy and became the chief strategy officer. Is that correct? At WordBreak?
I am the vice president of strategy at WordBreak.
Okay, got it.
So I'm close. I mean, I'm number 2.
Super close. Yeah. Super close. So can you tell me about what is WordBreak, and yeah, how did your experience as a corporate bankruptcy lawyer kind of prepare you for your role now?
So I actually started using WordRake while I was practicing bankruptcy law because the page limits are strict, and bankruptcy judges will not be kind about you exceeding their pages or trying to do anything that that really tests the boundaries of their jurisdiction and power. So you need to write well and write briefly. So I loved the product before I got involved with it. And WordRake is a clear and concise editor for lawyers. Anyone can use it, but it was really developed initially for lawyers. It's an add-in to Microsoft Word and Outlook, and it zips through your document just like the brightest senior partner with a great English editing background would, and marks up your document, suggesting how you can tighten and improve your writing so that it's clearer and more persuasive. And then you get to choose to accept or reject changes one by one, just like you would in any other form of track changes. And one of the cool things is that you can actually take WordRake's tracked changes and add another partner's track changes on top of it. So you can see who's making what changes and decide what to accept or reject, depending on politics and also what you think.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that is like a great pitch for this product, because there's just so many people that could use an extra hand, or that don't have, the staff to be able to help. That's awesome. So, okay, great. You guys, what's funny about this Women of Legal Tech panel is that I didn't even really talk about being a woman in legal tech. And, I think that's okay, because we're also just human and women. And, I do have some questions here, but I was like, oh, what's funny is we just talked like we wanted to, and not specifically about the fact that we are women in legal. So
that's what makes this awesome.
Yeah, I know. I was like, you know what? We just kind of talked like it doesn't matter that we are not a stat. But if there's anything you wanted to share here at the end, I'm happy to discuss it. And I do have some questions from the audience, and some that are specific about women in legal tech. So now that we got all of the more important parts of the conversation about, what we're doing and what's happening in legal tech and law in general right now, I'm going to bring up a couple questions. And I have, okay, so let's go to, what advice would you give to someone wanting to move from law practice into legal tech? And how does your advice change for this moment amidst the pandemic? Ivy, I think that'd be a good one for you.
Sure. So my advice is generally the same. I think you need to survey your skills, determine what skills are transferable, and then use those skills to contribute value to whatever company you join. I don't think that you need to learn to program. That is kind of a long road, and you won't be all that good at it. Just like, it takes a while to become a good lawyer. It also takes a while to become a good programmer. And so I would not say that's the first thing that you need to do. I think you need to figure out what you bring to the table, and it's not necessarily going to be something that's super direct. You might have a really good understanding of a community that you represent that needs help. And you can be that person and that advocate drawing on your background. You will understand workflows that somebody who's not a lawyer would not understand. And if you can bring that to the table, you can help a company better align what they're offering to serve the needs of lawyers. You can also help a company that exists for another purpose come into the legal world. In fact, that's what I first did with Perfect It. I created American Legal Style, and that allowed me to bring a consistency checker into the legal market space. And I relied on my background as an editor. I reverse engineered the program and figured out how it worked. And then I was their subject matter expert and still am. So don't think that you need to become super technical survey your skills, figure out what you bring, and offer it up. And that's the same no matter what, no matter when.
Fantastic. That was the perfect response. I don't have anything to add there, ladies. Okay. All right. So what can men do to assist women in the workplace? Are we overstepping boundaries by offering to assist in networking, like bringing them with us to merger orgs that we're a part of, offering a +1 space to events that we have access to, correcting people who make microaggressive statements, etc.? Who would like to take that?
I saw that question and I was like, oh, there's a lot in there. There's a lot
that's
to
a lot to unpack. Exactly.
I don't think there's like an easy one size fits all answer, unfortunately. I love it when people invite me to stuff that I wouldn't already have an invitation to. So there's that. But then there's also the flip side of that, like, does the person think that you're being creepy and asking them on a date? Like, there's just a lot of things in there. But yes, I think for that piece of it, you should. I don't want to speak to the microaggressions thing, other than that's just a hard thing for men to know how to intervene on your behalf. Kat, Ivy?
For me, I think it's really important that people invite you to do things not focused on being a woman or focused on being a person of color. It's like, oh my gosh, I am something other than just a woman of color. I also have a lot of skills. So when your male counterparts advocate for you because you're an expert and then you just happen to be a woman, that is how I like the advocacy to go.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. Kat, what would you say?
Yeah, I would just add quickly that I think I would suggest anyone, but especially men who want to help move women forward, just be self-aware of who you support and how you support them. I think we all tend to seek those who we're comfortable with and those who are most like us and move them forward, whether it's mentoring or coaching. And so I think we can all push ourselves to be a little uncomfortable and maybe seek out those opportunities that might not be those that we first go to, because they are people who we want to bring forward, to Ivy's point, just based on what the people have to contribute. And I think you can also step aside. And so if you, for instance, are offered an opportunity to speak, instead of accepting it, maybe you suggest and recommend someone else. And so you can expand opportunity creation for other people. I think those are two easy ways. And I think at the core is just self-awareness, like being aware of how you're already operating in the world and little changes you can make. And I think that really applies to all of us. I actually see a lot of women not supporting women. And so I think it's, something that we all can work on a little bit. It's a matter of starting with self-awareness.
Absolutely. And just to the point of that we're all people, I have to mention, so Sunday was Mother's Day and I was super excited about it because, that's my biggest job. So come on, like that's what I've got here. Plus my birthday is really close to Christmas and it's just a wash. So I was like, I was talking to my daughter at bedtime and I said, thank you so much for making me feel so special today. It was just lovely. And she's 4 and she goes, yeah, I know it's Mother's Day and all, but it's also just a day for everyone because we're all human. And I was like, you're right. I'm like, that's fine. You got it, girl. So, I was like, she already knows messaging for brands. Like she's got it. This is hilarious. But I was, I had to just mention it. I'm like, yeah, maybe, that not all, we are all human. So, okay, I have one more question. Let me see. I think it's oh yes, this is a good one. So getting documents to and from clients is a big deal. And is there, what about issues with clients that are unable to, if they don't have access to technology, how do we kind of help them, what kind of legal technology would you guys recommend if people are unable to get technology to be able to share documents and access case information? It's like,
it sounds like Jess is starting.
Ivy, you go ahead. I can say something too. I was like,
So usually we would encounter this problem when we were communicating with the pensioners that had PBGC claims in bankruptcy. And there would be a lot of older people who had, it was a relatively small claim in the bankruptcy case, but it was a really big deal for them. So they needed a lot of empathy, and they also needed a lot of help. And so, you really had to boil down what it was that they needed to know, not what you thought they needed to know, and make that information accessible and right up front. Yes, sometimes you do have to just mail a letter, so you do it. And if you can include screenshots and visual walkthroughs in that letter, that will help transition them to an online interface. So think about how to get them to where you need them to be, and then meet them. They don't need to go all the way for it to be an effective working attorney-client relationship. They just need to get somewhere. And if you have to do snail mail for everything, then it might be difficult for their interest to be fully represented. So if you focus on that with them, they will try to step up and do what they can. And then, don't be a judgmental jerk. Meet them where they are. Paste it into the email. Don't make them download a bunch of documents or go through a bunch of things. So,
great answer. Thank you. Guys, I think that wraps it up. This was fantastic. And for everyone watching, I've actually never met these women in real life. So this is really exciting. I just handpicked some awesome legal tech, enthusiasts and people that I've talked to on Twitter that I found really inspiring and innovative. And I thought it'd be great to just talk with you guys. And so thank you so much for joining me and for being a part of this. We have a lot of other questions. I'm probably going to try to answer them all in the chat. In the questions area, and you guys are welcome to as well if you'd like. If they're directed toward you, please do. And we will keep this up afterwards, so you can always have access to view the recording, the chat, the questions, everything that's over there. And we also have the Slack group that, if you guys wanted to, if you had any questions, feel free to do that. And our next session is it is in 2 hours. It's at 5 p.m. with Jordan Couch of Palace Law, and he's going to be talking about social media and culture for law firms. So yeah, that's a wrap. So thank you so much, guys. See ya.
bye. Thanks.
Thanks.